Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to present our research entitled The Importance of Politics on Precautionary Principles Implementation in the Environmental Sector, Cases and Example of Indonesia and Australia. Our team consists of me, Septian Teguhan Prakoso, my colleagues William Lee and Mesha Putri Intan Cahyani. What is precautionary principle? Basically, it's kind of a concept that defines a protective action that needs to be taken although there has not been any complete scientific proof or risk towards something or some cases in nature. It's included in Rio Declaration 1992 or the first Earth Summit in the Article 15 especially, and it's a part of the United Nations Conference of Environment and Development. The simple understanding of the precautionary principle is basically the prevention idea that should be included in every policy. There are three elements to apply precautionary principle. First, once a risk has been identified. Second, where there are threats of serious or irreversible damage. And third, if there is a lack of scientific certainty. A lot of disasters can happen. For example, we can see the case of Showa-maru tragedy in 1975. Showa-maru is a Japanese oil tanker ship that sank down or had accident at that year, and basically 7,300 liter of oil, crude oil, is splattered across the sea around Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore. The application of precautionary principle in countries also needs to be divided into the developed countries and the developing countries. Hence, in our research, we try to take example of Australia from the developed country and Indonesia, our beloved country, for the developing country. The method used in this research is descriptive qualitative, basically because we try to put aside the debates whether the precautionary principle is incoherent and irrational. We only focus the implementation of it in the policy that taking care of environmental sector, even though in the end, the decision is in the hands of the government itself. In the end, it will try to show how political factors affect the implementation of environmental policy in a country, even though the precautionary principle should already become the main priority and guidance in making the policies. Next is the cases, and my colleagues will explain about that.
The first cases will be the Indonesia case. Indonesia itself ratified the Rio Declaration on August 23, 1994. Prior to its ratification, the National Development Planning Agency produced the Biodiversity Action Plan in 1993, which going into several enhancements and became the Indonesian Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan. This action plan was developed in order to first to encourage changes in attitude and behavior of Indonesian individuals and society, institutions, and legal instruments. The second one is to apply scientific and technological inputs and local wisdom. The third is to implement balanced conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity. The fourth is to strengthen institutions and law enforcement. And the last is to resolve the conflict over natural resources. All seems well, but the implementation in the field is far from perfect. For example, is the Sumatran Rhino Action Plan that released in 1993, which the implementation did not meet any objective because the population of the Sumatran rhino from 1993 until 2007 is tend to decline. And the second example is the involvement of Indonesia in forum together with other Asian countries to discuss about the annual severe smoke haze pollution, which caused by the forest fire in Indonesia islands, Kalimantan and Sumatra. But becoming one of the primary sources of haze in particular issue did not seem to bother Indonesia a lot because Indonesia became the last country to ratify the agreement, which actually this agreement was released by the forum in 2002. The AATHP is released in 2002, and Indonesia just ratified the agreement in 2014 and deposit its instrument of agreement in 2015, in January 2015. The agenda to postpone ratifying specific agreements showed that the decision-making process of Indonesia's government towards the smoke haze issue failed to meet any decision-making approaches in uncertainty. The awareness towards the existence of high-risk communities affected by the issue is neglected. The decision to postpone ratifying the agreement also did not include science as the basis to assess and manage the risks. Lack of transparency in the decision-making process also worsening the issue. This particular fact shows that ratifying regulation and applying precautionary principles is not enough if the observation and the enforcement of the policy in the field are lacking. Nevertheless, the study argues that there are some factors that may have an impact on Indonesia's unfortunate case regarding the use of the precautionary principle. They are non-optimal top-bottom relation, non-binding or non-firm sanction from national and regional levels, and last is the lack of awareness regarding the environmental issue.
Australia is as a signatory of the Rio Declaration in 1992, and then they also the signatory of the protocol, the Kyoto Protocol under the United Nations Framework Convention on the Climate Change. So we can conclude that Australia is new, that they have responsibility to tackle the climate change and also to do the precaution to implement the precautionary principle among their policies and the other activities that can affect the environmental itself. The first one that I want to explain is about the CPRS. In order to implement this commitment, in 2009, Australian government established the ETS or emission trading system legislation and create a carbon pollution reduction scheme or CPRS that they mention about the 6 steps to reduce the carbon pollution and also to maintain the sustainable environmental waste among the production of the Australians energy. And but those policy, it's tackled by the Tony Abbott under the Labour Party and in relation with the Green Party, and they rolled up the Malcolm Turnbull as a liberal party, and then they make the Malcolm as a leader of opposition. This complicated process of bill, it happened when we can see at the figure 1, where the Australians exported emission in 1961 until 2017 are share of the global emission fossil. We can see that the significantly increase year by year without any increase by year, and then they still cannot tackle the issue. Because every government, every parliament, every prime minister that take a seat in the Australian government, they have a non-established policy that can sustain in a long time, so they can tackle the emission itself. The policy, the game, the actor itself, it's play a huge role when we talking about the achievement of the sustainability and the precautionary principle among the activity that can harm or that can affect the environmental itself.
And basically the conclusion of our research is, at the end of the day, politics and policy are linked to each other. We cannot separate them. And various factors can affect how political interplay can go down in certain countries. And this also can affect the policy that came from the government. From Indonesia case, the failure of demonstrating decision-making approaches in uncertainty and the lack of accountability. From Australia, there is a battle between the Liberal Party and the Labour Party, and also a Green Party, about the Green Party, in order to determine the best solution to reduce the carbon pollutants. At the end of the discussion, there is a direct and indirect effect between policy and policy making. The potential topic for further research is about how the failure on the implementation process of certain environmental policy of regulation can happen despite already addressing the precautionary principle and the statistical relation between two variables. There are politics and stakeholders. That's all for our presentation. Thank you very much and have a great day.